Some have called the Martha scene from Batman v Superman one of the dumbest scenes in film history, saying they really only decided to work together because their mothers share the same name. As if to believe these characters are so stupid that they would let a mere happy coincidence allow them to instantly become friends. In my opinion, I believe this to be a very naive oversimplification of a very emotionally driven scene. The thing is though, I believe this scene doesn't have one particular answer, which is why I have compiled a list of the 3 possible interpretations of the Martha scene. To start, let's talk about the one that I'm sure everyone has heard by now. By discovering that Superman has a human mother, he becomes humanized in Batman's eyes. While this is definitely true, I feel like it goes even deeper than that though. There's still one key element that I think people are forgetting about. Bruce's father. During the fight, Batman says,
"You're not brave. Men are brave."
By saying this, Bruce is comparing Superman to his own father, who bravely and selflessly lunged for the gunman during his last moments, trying to protect the ones he loves, and upon dying, his last word was,
"Martha."
And that's how Bruce views the whole situation. He sees himself as brave, like his father, especially for being willing to take on Superman, whereas he views Superman as a monster, just like the killer of his parents. Bruce later goes on to say,
"You were never a god. You were never even a man."
Since a god is usually defined as a powerful being, and since Bruce defines men as being brave, another way to look at that statement is, you were never powerful, you were never even brave. And just then, Superman does something brave. He pleads for someone else's life while thinking nothing of himself.
Find him! Save Martha!
Bruce freezes in his place. He starts to remember how he felt when his parents were killed, powerless and confused. He starts to see Superman as a man by his very own definition. It's almost like he starts to see his own father in Superman. But Bruce doesn't give in so easily. He starts to shout,
"Why did you say that name?"
as if to say, how do you know that name has significance with me? Are you trying to trick me? And that's when Lois comes in and says,
It's his mother's name!
This is when Bruce not only sees his own father in Superman, but his own self. He realizes that he and Superman are one and the same, 2 heroes fighting for the lives of others. He realizes that he's had the whole situation backwards. Superman is more like his father, whereas he is the true monster. Why did Bruce become Batman in the first place? The biggest reasons are because he blames himself for his parents' death, and because he swore to never let the same thing that happened to him as a child happen to anyone else. After the events in Metropolis, he realizes that it has happened again. A man who lost the use of his legs, his own co-workers injured and dead, but most of all, a little girl who has lost her mother. Bruce starts to feel powerless again and blames Superman. It's here that he falls into his emotional cave, as foreshadowed at the start of the film. Throughout the movie, Bruce has all these visions and dreams. The first one is when he visits his parents' mausoleum. Then suddenly a demonic bat bursts through it and attacks him. This could be interpreted as a message to Bruce. If he goes through with his plot, the darkness within him will consume him. The next is the nightmare sequence. In the scheme of the movie, it's meant to be the manifestation of Bruce's true fears come to life. If someone as powerful as Superman took over and he would be forced to kill others using weapons and guns. In fact, if you notice one small detail, the handgun that he uses is the same gun that was used to kill his parents. Bruce then has a visit from Barry Allen, telling him,
It's Lois! It's Lois Lane! She's the key! You're right about him! You've
This reinforces Bruce's own fear of Superman, that he's a threat and that even some mysterious visit confirms for him. Or so he thinks. Then towards the end, Bruce goes on to say,
I bet your parents taught you that you mean something. That you're here for a reason. My parents taught me a different lesson. Dying in the gutter for no reason at all.
when Bruce is about to strike Superman, Superman says,
Save Martha!
This causes Batman to start having an epiphany. He remembers the dream he had about visiting his parents' graves and only remembering seeing his mother's name. He starts to feel emotionally powerless like he did that day. He grows angry as if Superman is trying to taunt him. Then suddenly Lois throws herself over his body and says that it's the name of his own mother. The message from the mysterious visit starts to make sense too.
It's Lois Lane! She's the key!
This likely means she's the key to his humanity. Bruce realizes that there are people on Earth who genuinely care for Superman. He begins his ascension from the emotional cave that he's fallen into. He starts to think that maybe this was the reason for his parents' death as well as for Superman to be here on Earth. To keep him from making a huge mistake and to remind him who he is and what he's fighting for. Most of all, he realizes that he has become the very thing that he set out to stop when he first became Batman. In essence, he was saved by Superman from his own self. This last one may be a bit of a long shot, but it is worth thinking about. Why did Superman say Martha's name? Why not just save my mother? There has been many arguments for this. Some have said that Superman was trying to protect his identity. Some have said that Clark is an adoptive child, and adopted children usually tend to call their parents by their first names, especially when they're adults. Others have said that he knows that Batman wouldn't care if he said my mother because Batman could just think that he has alien parents. But it's also been argued that maybe he didn't just mean his own mother Martha, but Bruce's too, referring more to the idea of Martha rather than just the person. Since Clark is an investigative reporter, it might be reasonable to assume that he dug up evidence of Bruce and his dead parents and realized that his mother's name is the same as his own mother's. As the big fight gets started, Superman refers to him as Bruce. He's trying to talk to him not as Superman, but as Clark, from one man to another. But Bruce is still adamant about killing him, so Superman thinks that he'll just have to beat him at his own game. Bruce is not only trying to kill Superman, but trying to show him that he's nothing without his powers. He thinks that because Superman is indestructible, he doesn't have to fear anything.
Breathe it in. That's fear.
At the end of the fight, Superman is beaten and powerless, and just when Bruce thinks that he's been proven right about him, Superman uses the only power he has left. He does something that only Superman would do. He appeals to whatever humanity Bruce has left.
You're letting him kill Martha.
At first viewing, we would expect the him in that sentence to be Lex Luthor. But what if he was really referring to the killer of Bruce's parents? As said before, Bruce blames himself for his parents' death, for feeling powerless to stop it from happening. So first, Superman reminds him of his guilt, and then tells him a way to redeem himself.
Find him. Save Martha.
Bruce starts to remember the dream about seeing his mother's name. The flowers could represent the act of killing Superman, which he saw as a good deed in the name of his parents. And now suddenly the demonic bat makes more sense. What if this isn't what his parents would have wanted? Now one might say, how could he be referring to Bruce's mother when Lois comes in later and says that it's his mother's name? Well, Lois obviously couldn't have known what he really meant since she came running in just as Bruce was shouting,
Martha, why did you say that name?
When she says that it's his mother's name, this is when Bruce realizes that not only is Superman really brave or human or loved, but also feels fear. Specifically, the fear of losing a loved one. He realizes that maybe that monstrous bat is what he would have become if he killed someone, even if it was in the name of his parents. After the moment is over, Bruce says he'll make him a promise, something he initially thought was worthless. He says Martha won't die tonight, referring again to the idea rather than just the person. Throughout the movie, Bruce has demonstrated his complete cynical nature in people ever since the death of his parents.
They taught me the world only makes sense if you force it to.
But this moment is when he regains that faith in humanity, even saying in the end,
Men are still good.
So when people say things like they aren't acting like the heroes that we know and love, well, in many ways, that's the point. It's all about them going through a dark tunnel and becoming the heroes that we know and love. Overall, I think this scene and this movie really demonstrates that in a world where we separate ourselves from each other and let our petty differences define us, if we really get to know each other, we may find that we're actually more alike than we think. And deep down somehow, we're really meant to be friends instead of enemies. So what do you think? Which one is it? All of the above? None of the above? A little bit of each? You be the judge. Whatever it is, don't be shy, leave a reply. And if you like this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the J-Man.